Welcome to Developing the Leader Within podcast, the podcast that brings you leadership insights from the brightest minds shaping our world. Join us as we dive into conversation with trailblazers, innovators, and change makers, spanning every corner of the globe. Get ready to explore new perspectives, gain actionable insights, and become the leader the world needs today. Unleash your potential. Tune into Developing the Leader Within podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Let's embark on this transformative journey together. Developing the Leader Within podcast, leading beyond limits.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. And today we have a special bonus for everyone. Today we are speaking with Mayce and Missy. They are the dynamic duo powering Mpactful. Mayce and Missy are passionate about helping people lead well. As Maxwell Leadership Certified speakers and trainers, Mayce and Missy elevate their domestic and international clients to the next level with their high energy, can-do attitudes, which permeates through their trainings. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Wow.
Enrique, thank you so much for having us. We are so excited to be here.
Yes, thank you for having us. And such a lovely introduction. Thank you for that.
Well, hey, it is true, folks. I'm telling you, these two are shaking the world of leadership, and we're going to be speaking exactly about that. We'll be speaking about unlocking leadership excellence, insights from top leadership development coaches. But before we get into that conversation, ladies, tell us a little bit about you.
So Missy and I actually met through Maxwell Leadership about 9.5 years ago. And immediately we realized we were sisters from another mister, right? Like we, from the get-go, just hit it off. We became besties and decided to go into business together, starting our leadership development and keynote speaking business Mpactful messages. So we're besties, we're business partners, we're family, and I don't think we would have it any other way.
Absolutely not.
All right. Well, it's exciting to not only know that you have the JMT background, but that bridged a conduit for both of you to operate now. And it's amazing what those trajectories, as we say, we're going to chart a course for ourselves, ends up being a building of a dynamic duo team. And as we're looking to focus on leadership, I wanted to ask you, what are the most common challenges leaders face today, and how do you help them overcome these challenges?
Yeah, I'll jump right in. I think there's a laundry list right now, if I'm being honest, of challenges that leaders are facing, not just at work, in the home as well. And I think that it was magnified by the COVID situation. And as everyone is trying over the past 4 years now, right, to re-enter into this new normal, the challenges that they faced before are exasperated now. I think one thing is we became silos. And so Macy and I believe it is really a mantra that we teach, that connection is the core of leadership. And what I would say is that leaders aren't sure how to connect within the workplace right now, right? They want to have boundaries. They don't want to get too close. Everybody's kind of working in their own space, trying to work collectively, but oftentimes they're just an island unto themselves. But what we know is that if leaders will truly, authentically, and genuinely try to get to know their teams, connect with those they're working with and those they're leading, connection can change everything. And really, it can begin to change that laundry list of problems. But if you don't know your folks, if you aren't connected with them, you are going to struggle with having them feel empowered. You are going to struggle with them buying in to the
Or
goals
trusting
that you
you,
have. Yeah,
respecting
the
you,
trust
all of those
meter.
things.
Yeah, everything comes down to connection. But I would agree there's a laundry list of challenges right now that our leaders are facing.
One of the things that I'd like to add to that too, which I think is a huge challenge, is sometimes leaders forget it's their responsibility. And it's their responsibility to dot, dot, dot. It's their responsibility to fill in the gaps, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's always the leader's responsibility. So when we even think about connection from a family perspective, sometimes parents will say, well, I'm not connecting with my kid. Well, are you going to where they're at, or are you expecting them to come find you? So whether it's the family or the workplace, all of these challenges, it is that buck stops with the leader. The leader has to get out there and connect to build that trust, to build that rapport, to build those relationships. If that's if they want buy-in, right? If they want their folks to do the things that they are supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. Now, connection is definitely the bridge to trust. And if you're a leader, that is your key. You need to connect. How else will the team or the organization know that they can actually confide in you or can trust
That's
you
right.
to lead them in great points that are true? Now, can you share a success story? I know that there's a laundry list of things that will inhibit leaders to growing, but a success story where your coaching made a significant impact on a leader's growth or organizational success.
Sure. I think one of the things that we love the most is application is really important, right? Information is great, but when we work with clients, we want them to be able to apply the things that they're teaching. And we have been in rooms where literally during lunch breaks, people that have taken what we've taught in the morning session, used it at lunch, have come back after the lunch session and say, I just tried what you just taught and it works, right?
Yeah.
So I think there are, and Missy, you might have one that comes off the top of your head, but you know, in general, what we're teaching, we know if applied will 100% work. We always tell our clients, you don't have to trust us, you can test us and let us know. But time and time again, we have had people, if it's a 2-day training, they'll come back the next morning and say, I just tried what you taught me last night with my kid or with my wife, and it totally works. So thank you. So a lot of what we teach, we also want to help people in their families, because leadership happens in the family as well. Missy, do you have a specific example
Oh,
you
of
want to share?
course. Of course, I do. I think one of the most rewarding things is when you have been pouring into someone, into a team, into leaders, and they come back with a story of transformation. And there's one that stands out to me. One of the participants in one of our trainings didn't want to be in the room. He thought he had it all covered,
Figured out.
right?
Yeah.
And we see him 3 months later when we were there speaking at a conference for the same company, and he's 30 pounds lighter. It looks like a weight has been lifted off of him, not only the weight he lost physically, and he comes over to us and he gives us a big old bear hug. And he talks about how the training, especially the empowerment piece that we shared with him, and how to really begin to trust his team and empower his team, how it freed up his time, it lessened his stress. And he had lost the weight, but he had saved his marriage because his wife was about tired of him staying and doing everything. And so to know that he spent 2 days with us and his physical health changed, his mental health changed, and his perhaps family legacy changed, like that's a pretty humbling and powerful testimony.
And that's really why we do what we do, right? It's easier for them to take the things and apply it in the workplace and see a difference immediately. But like Missy said, the humbling part is when they come to us and say, you helped save my marriage. You helped save my relationship with my children. And I love, Missy, what you just said about the effects of our training so that they can leave a different legacy. It's helping us leave our legacy as well. But we don't think about that when we go in the training. It's all about the participants. And when they share with us the impact of what we did had on their lives, there is nothing better than that feeling.
Wonderful stories there of impact. And I do have a friend that she encourages all leaders to leave deep footprints. We all know the footprints in the sand kind of thing. These are footprints they'd say, no, that person was there. And both of you are definitely doing that in the lives of those that come to you. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you.
Now, with the laundry list of things that we can build on, there are qualities that leaders should have in place if they are looking to have this a long haul type of thing. So, what are the key qualities or habits that you believe distinguish exceptional leaders from the average ones?
One word comes to mind so strongly, and that's authenticity. I
Yes.
think in this world, especially social media focuses on filters and fake, and you don't know who's real, who's not real. What's this person look like when they show up in the room? It's a totally different person than you saw online. And I think that authenticity is such a key to effective leadership because nobody's asking for perfection. No one's expecting perfection. Your folks aren't going to be perfect. And if they see you being real and true to who you are, it allows them to show up and be true to who they are. And then there's cohesiveness rather than, well, that person's not as good as me or I'm better than them. So I think authenticity really needs to be at that foundation of these characteristics. What would you say, Missy, is a top one for
Well,
you?
just how I feel about being an authentic leader. I Nobody wants perfection in their leader. Nobody expects that. And when you can just really show up and be vulnerable with your team, it can change everything. So great way to start us off on that topic, Macy. I would also say intentionality.
Hmm.
The things that we teach, we literally will guarantee that they will change leaders, they will change organizations, they will change families, but it takes intentionality. And so it's more than just knowing what you've got to do. It's intentionally taking action and doing that. And when you couple intentionality, what you want to do, with that action, you're going to have results. And when you do that consistently, right? John taught us recently that consistency trumps intensity. And so when you can really be intentional and take action on those intentions and do that with consistency, you are going to be a leader that stands high above the others.
Yes, agreed.
Absolutely. And you mentioned three things there that really keyed out, authenticity, vulnerability, intentionality, which are all kind of part of things of being aware and things of that nature. So let's talk a little bit about emotional intelligence because
Sure.
obviously we can't really talk about leadership without that. So how do you approach developing emotional intelligence in leaders and why is it crucial for effective leadership?
I think with emotional intelligence, leaders just have to be aware, right? And leadership is about people. That's the difference between leadership and management is leadership is about people. And people have feelings and people have emotions. And you have to really understand how to, when you're in a leadership role, how to manage your own emotions, but by also staying in tune to the emotions of the team, which sometimes can get a little bit tricky. One of the activities and exercises we have a lot of our leaders do is to practice reflection every single day so that at the end of the day or to start the day and reflect on the day before, really think about how did I show up as a leader? How is what I'm doing affecting those that I lead? But, emotional intelligence is all about understanding and managing those emotions.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on that, Macy and I do training for DISC. And so it's very important for us, even if it is a short part of what we're training and not the focus of what we're training, is to help people understand how they're hardwired, right? When you understand how you are authentically created, but you take that to the next step and you begin to understand the way others are hardwired and you understand how they are created to communicate, right? We're all created differently. And so when you can take how you like to communicate and understand how others like to communicate and come together and communicate so that you guys can do so in a way that connects and doesn't divide, it's a game changer for a leader, and developing that emotional intelligence, knowing that someone is hardwired to be more of an introvert and more of a task oriented person, and approaching them with that mindset of, look, I need to talk to you a certain way to really get the best out of you and for you to know that I value you. To me, that training, along with the reflection, Macy, that you mentioned, it can literally transform relationships within an organization.
And I was going to say, you mentioned the word value, and that is something that I was going to mention too, is when you handle things with that emotional intelligence view, right? And you can use DISC as a tool. You're saying to this person, I value you so much that I want to understand you. I want to respect your needs. Of course, there's always boundaries, and that can be tricky for both uh, team members and leaders. And Missy and I have some tricks up our sleeve for that as well. But it's that valuing piece that's so important, that leaders make sure that their people are seen and known, and it's not just they show up to work to do a job every day, because we do spend more time at work than we do with our families.
Most leaders know that if they are favored by their folks, it's because they've invested that time. They've invested the time in themselves to get
Yes.
to know
Yeah.
who they really are and bring in that authenticity. But they've also invested in the time with their people. And that's where you really get the most bang for buck in leadership. And so, great points there. Now, not everybody listening is in a current leadership position. Some people are growing, or they want to aspire to become a leader. So, what advice would you give to someone transitioning from, let's say, a management role to a leadership position for the first time?
I'd love to jump in because, first of all, everybody is a leader, right?
Yes, you
Leadership is
stole what I was
influence.
going to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. So if you're breathing, you're influencing someone. You may not have a title or a position yet that you consider a leadership position, but you've got to lead as if you are, knowing that you're influencing people. But what I think is really important for someone who wants one of those leadership positions or has just been promoted to one of those positions is that you've got to understand that leadership isn't about tasks and processes and systems as much as it is about people. And so you've got to change your focus from the check off list, although those things have to be done, to the people building list. How can you build the people in your team? And it's, you know, a combination of all the things we've talked about here today, but you're going to have to move from systems and processes to people.
Yeah. And I was going to say, John teaches a lot about getting out of the people pile. And really, what that's about is showing maybe the leaders above you that you are different than everybody else. He was sharing a story about his nephew, how his nephew got this job and how his nephew didn't want the job that he got. There was another job that he wanted. And John just walked him through and said, if you show up 15 minutes, not even hours, 15 minutes early and stay 15 minutes late, you're going to get out of the people pile, because most people are going to clock in on time and leave on time. But when you're able to do just that little bit more, because unfortunately, right now, we mass produce average, right? So it doesn't take much. That's the good news. It doesn't take much to be above average. But if you could do things with excellence and show that you are above average, the great thing about leadership is it can be taught and caught. So if you're around the right people, even if you've never led before, you are going to lead well. But I think what Missy said was so important, is that you have to know that leadership, at the end of the day, there's one word. Well, we mentioned influence, but influence is all about people. Leadership
Yeah.
is all about people. There's nothing else. If you looked in the definition of leadership and John Maxwell wrote the dictionary, it would say leadership equals influence equals people.
Yeah. And one other thing that came to mind as you were sharing, Macy, is that when someone is promoted or wants to be promoted, it's all about growing yourself first. right? Like you can't become what you want to be. You can't become that leader that is really impacting lives and impacting success without starting with yourself first. You've got to grow yourself. You've got to begin practicing the things that you preach and the things that you want to become. And so it all really comes down to, what are you doing to grow yourself? What podcasts are you listening to, like this one, right? What books are you reading? What training are you taking on for yourself to next level you? You know, John teaches about the law of the lid. And so, as a leader, if you're a seven, if that's your leadership lid, no one you're leading is going to go beyond your leadership lid. So that means they're going to be contained at a 6, 5, 4, wherever they are. But as you grow, it allows your people to grow, to model what they're seeing in you. And so, if you are someone who wants to be a leader, if you are someone who is now in a leadership position and you're wanting to lead well, begin with yourself and growing yourself. It
I love
really
that.
is the key. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it goes to say about career development, right? We were talking about leadership development or the things that are available to you personally and that you can do, and maybe some things to do around you. But career development also is one of those things that we focus on because it really does take into account all the things that we bring to the table.
Sure.
But you have to bring yourself out of the group and market yourself in a way that others will take notice, right? And usually those are infamous people stand out, right? But no, this is a way for you to show your capabilities, your ability, your we talk about the lid, right? Busting the ceiling from where you are. And sometimes I'll tell you, some leaders are not at that level and you may be above them in some capacity, right? So how are you also bringing that back in to help that leader
That's
get to
right.
the next level as well? But it's a collaborative type of thing, and I really enjoyed all the stuff that you have brought to the table for these leaders, the potential in position type of leaders, because we do agree on that everybody is leading at one capacity or another. And it may be your child, or it may be a cousin, it may be a workforce, but you are definitely impacting those around you.
I want to
So,
share one thought that came to mind talking about the people pile, because it doesn't take much.
Right. That's what I was
But
saying. We
it's like
mass produce
this
average.
much
So,
more can make this much of a difference in you being seen and having opportunities to really impact where you're leading and the people that you're leading. So it doesn't take a whole lot to stand out, because most people are just showing up as average, and it's just mass produced in today's world. So a little bit will make a lasting and long impression.
yeah,
I'm proof of that. That all you have to do is a little extra. And after a while, that compiles into or compounds into something extraordinary. And people take notice of that. So keep plugging away, those that are viewing and listening. You are right around the corner from your greatest days. Now, ladies, what do you have coming up? Because I know we talk about impact and all the things that you are doing. So, what do you have coming up? Where can we see you? Give us a little insight of where the people can meet you.
so we're in development of a new program where hopefully we'll be ready to launch right after the new year. So right now, we just encourage people to follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is Impactful with an M messages, impactful underscore messages, because M&M, a lot of people call us M&M. They don't know Missy, Macy, hard to tell which one's which. So at impactful underscore messages. And Missy, we have something for Enrique's guests if they follow us and DM us, don't we?
We do. We have a free gift. It is something that we've come up with, that we've used with organizations that they've taken back to their families. And we'll just say it's the secret sauce to connection. So if any of your listeners really want to connect more with those they lead with and live with, they can, as Macy said, they can follow us on Insta and then DM us the word gift. And we are going to have a free gift for them that is a mighty powerful tool.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for that. If you are listening or viewing, you will want to do that immediately, right after you subscribe to the channel, and
That's
then
right.
and get your free gift. Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing this time with us, educating us on leadership, some of the things that they can do to not only market themselves, but be aware, influence, connect, and all the different things that we discussed today. And we're really happy to have had you with us today.
And Enrique, thank you so much for your dedication. You've been doing this podcast for a while and you're impacting so many folks through what you're doing. I know, you're a former military, retired military. So thank you again for your service, but we appreciate you having us on to pour into the people in your world. But you are doing the thing, my friend. You have gotten out of that people pile.
Absolutely. A
Thank you
shining
so much.
star.
All right. Well, we are shining together because we actually are a reflection of whatever we do on each other's lives. So thank you for shining your bright light on me. And we will continue to do that with those that are listening. Folks, we want to remind everyone that you can get a hold of these two great professionals. And I wanted to give you a time to share. You mentioned Instagram, but what other platforms or what other vehicles can the listener or viewer get a hold of you?
So our website as well is www.impactfulmessages.com. Again, it's impactful without the I for M&M. Missy, where else would you want to send them besides our website and Insta?
Well, I would say LinkedIn. Impactful messages on LinkedIn. We're putting a lot of content out there to add value to leaders. And so, connect with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to share some free content with you, but also would be more than happy to talk with you about how we might could intentionally serve you or your team. One of the things we've learned, and it's part of the project we're going to be launching in the new year, hopefully, is that unfortunately, there are some businesses and companies who might not have the monies to bring in trainers to lift their leaders' lids. And so we're hoping to come out with something that's going to help each individual lid take that responsibility on themselves and find a way, a community to help you grow and develop as a leader. And so we've got some great things on the horizon. So connect with us on LinkedIn.
Folks, we're going to have all those links as part of the video and the show notes so you can get a hold of these two great ladies here. And we just want to remind everybody that today's episode is sponsored by Fantail Services and Superpass, which are powering our website and app, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, the Outlier Project, and Dooko. And if you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to subscribe and let us know. And we're always looking for new ideas and guests so we can add to the show. So if you know someone or have a topic that you would like featured on the podcast or want to sponsor our show, we'd love to hear about it by emailing us at triadleadershipsolutions@gmail.com. And this podcast is brought to you by StreamYard, a browser-based tool that lets you live stream to any platform and record podcasts in studio quality. And we're using it to record this show. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.